こんばんは。いらっしゃいませ. Welcome to Paprika Girl's Midnight Diner. I thought I would never make another after the rambling mess from last time. But there is something to be said for the izakaya talk, the communication that has kept society stable and given us an outlet for so very many centuries. I wish I had someone to talk to, of course, because talking to oneself does seem rather narcissistic in a way. Well, maybe not other people. The podcasts that I like are mostly people talking to themselves, come to think of it. But it's just me that sounds silly. Today I am drinking a brand new bottle of Taki Suzushi from Tsunan Shuzo in Niigata. It's an early summer item which is designed to be refreshing. It's just now prior to Tsuyu in Japan, which is the rainy season. It does rain a lot during the rainy season, and yes, it is raining now. I suppose you can hear that, since last time I discovered that my trusty Tascam recording device did in fact pick up the midnight rain on my Engawa. But Tsuyu is not all rain. It's a good deal of humidity, a delightful boon for the complexion, and an odd balance between hot and cold. In an old Japanese house like the one in which I live, the wood breathes in the moisture so that the shoji doors stick, and neglected food will grow mold. I cannot keep my bread, nor the butter dish, out in the kitchen, for penicillin spores are precisely what I shall find in no time. Let's be more specific. It is, as of today, since I am recording this at 1:22 a.m. on the 5th of June, the season of Boshu, which is the seeding season. When we enter Tsuyu, scheduled for tomorrow actually, the entire garden will begin to change. Green will be overgrown everywhere. It will be a proverbial cascade of life. That is why, just before Tsuyu, trees in Japan are cut back down to the quick. They shall return with a vengeance. Also, a gardening tip for those of you with ajisai, hydrangea in English. Yes, I know that one. After the flowers have gone, cut it down. Whatever of the green stalk that has grown this year, cut it back down to the brown. And do this with your lantana too, at the end of the flowering season, or else you will have a whole mountain of persistent and bulbous plant. The music you are listening to is called Harusame, which is a hauta, a sort of pop song of much older origin on shamisen. Hauta were played in izakaya, just like this one. Well, in an imaginary sense. Harusame is written spring rain, just like the type outside my window. One of the first songs I learned how to dance was Kanto Harusame Gasa, a song by Mizura Hibari, if you want to do a bit of Harusame research on your own. It just occurred to me that Harusame is also another name for potato starch noodles, which are popular in many Asian countries at this time of year. Back to the season of Boshu though. Boshu has 3 steps under its umbrella. The first is Kamakiri Shozu, when the mantis is born. The second, Fuso Hotaru to naru, when the fireflies emerge. And thirdly, Ume no mi kibamu, or the plums turn yellow. The end of this month is time to harvest those plums and stuff them into a jar with equal parts of rock sugar, so that they may conveniently ripen and turn into ume syrup. This is used in all sorts of summer drinks for the rest of the season, so get on that. You can also find kits at grocery stores at the end of the month of June. Okay, I'm changing the song now, since it's hard to speak against the hauta. Instead, I shall play this one. A Nagauta from the kabuki play Nanso Satomi Hakkenden, which is on the stage this month at Kabukiza. Satomi Hakkenden is a ridiculously long yet wildly popular Edo period novel series about 8 dog warriors from Kanto getting themselves into all sorts of mishaps. It is a genre of Japanese literature called gesaku, or low-brow stuff, which means cynical, sarcastic, and funny stuff for the average Taro. The Festivus for the rest of us. Why June? Well, because Samujiro is the baddie that is defeated, whose name is an allusion to rain. And this is the rainy period. I feel like there may be another layer to this, but I must ask my teacher about it. By the way, Satomi Hakkenden happens to feature magical balls. What manga can you think of which may feature dog warriors and magical crystal balls? I leave that one to Matt Alt, the master of all things anime otaku related. And by the way, there is more than one of these to which I am referring. A little bit of local gossip because I cannot get it out of my mind. Just today, there was a happening, as they say conveniently in Wasei Eigo, in my own neighborhood. I was folding the laundry when I heard the sound of an approaching ambulance. And this is a very residential area, so ambulances are not entirely uncommon, but this one stopped in the parking near my house. I was worried for my neighbor, so let's call him Mr. Yoshino. That's not his name, for he and his wife are elderly. So I peeked outdoors, pretending to wash the windows while peering over my shoulder to see where the stretcher was going. And yet, presently, Mr. Yoshino appeared from his own doorway, looking just as curious as I. Seeing me, he meandered over in my direction to muse about what was going on. And as the first responders went in the other direction, he decided to get on his bike and follow. On your bike, Oyaji. This is the sort of neighborhood we live in, where everyone knows everyone, and an illness will be the talk of the town for days. It turned out to be Mr. Kobayashi, who is a mutual friend. The Kobayashi family has a most beautiful garden of ajisai, with a well-manicured lawn and a patio with a white umbrella. We often see Mr. Kobayashi reading outside with a cup of tea, bidding passers-by good day as we may walk to the grocery in the mornings. He looked lucid when he was packaged into the ambulance, but his sweet wife was with him. I shall have to pay them a visit in a few days to make sure everything is all right. My prayers will be with them tonight, so please, if you would be so kind, keep them in mind. It's a wonderful area of Tokyo, my Kichijoji. I've been here for 24 years, since college. which is right around the corner. Both my husband-to-be and I lived in the area, and even after marriage we never left. It is too genteel a neighborhood to leave. Green everywhere. Parks abound. Farmers right down the street. Like I mentioned, everyone knows everyone. We have barbecues together, trim each other's gardens, and share in the ochugen and the osebo and whatever is growing on our fruit trees. Ochugen are summer gifts that we send off to family, co-workers, and acquaintances. And osebo are the winter counterpart. This year, I do not know to whom I shall be sending them or what I will send. It is too much to think about right now. I am drunk and thinking about oharai. The reason is, right now, I am looking at the tokonoma in my zashiki. On the wall is a kakejiku. It's a wall scroll on which is written the following. Minatsuki no nagoshi no harai suru hito wa sensai no inochi no bebu to kike. That means something like, hear that those who purify themselves in June will prolong their lives by 1,000 years. It is a chorus from the No play Minatsuki Barai, written by Zeami, who wrote most all of them. It's about the same thing all No plays are about. Unresolved emotional conundrums and ghosts. The actual Oharai festival is at the end of this month. So, if you go to jinja around Japan, you may find a large ring of twisted grass called a chinowa. Go through there to purify yourself of your sins, your regrets, and any bad juju that you have acquired recently in life. Chagashi, by the way, this month will all be Minatsuki. I am so tired of Minatsuki. It's this triangular-shaped mochi kanten of clear white, topped with azuki beans. Every year, I'm invited to Kyoto tea ceremonies. And every year, every single ceremony, in however many days' time, will always be serving Minatsuki. I do not like Minatsuki. Oh, not anymore anyway. But that's only Kyoto, you see. In Tokyo tea rooms, only the fancy-pantsy of us will be having Minatsuki. And I am not fancy-pantsy. So, I won't serve it. I choose instead to have chagashi shaped like plum. You know, unfortunately, the first time I had plum-shaped chagashi, I was very disappointed to discover that most of them are not, in fact, plum flavor. Chagashi makers, you have missed an opportunity as plum is a ridiculously delicious anko. I am very fond of plum flavor. That mature, vaguely sour, and yet defiantly invigorating tang. I also prefer plum blossoms to the famous sakura. But that's a discussion for February. Do you know that Tsuyu is written plum rain? If you study kanji, you'll see it and wonder why anyone would pronounce plum as tsu and not bai, which is the logical pronunciation. But kanji readings are about as reliable as English in its arbitrary nature. So there's that. You know, there are many other words in the rainy season besides tsuyu. I can recall samidare, fifth month's rain. Nagame, the long rain. That's also an autumn term. Yeah. And how about Kobai no ame, the rain of the yellowing plum? For example, the illustrious poet Matsuo Basho wrote, Samidare wo atsumete hayashi mogami-gawa. Mogami River fills quickly with the rain of the season. Mogami-gawa, by the way, is in Yamagata. Basho likely wrote this poem during his pilgrimage up north, since he was from Mie Prefecture, on the 500th anniversary of the death of Saigyo, a poet from the Heian period whom he admired very much. Basho wrote a lot about water, come to think of it. Let's see. Nagame no gyōshiramu kaeru kana. It's Ishijima Kijido, I think. That's right. From the Meiji period. Now that one's interesting. It refers to the calling of a frog on daybreak. Notice the gyo shiramu. Did you know that there are many, many words for the various stages of dawn in Japanese? Let's see. It goes. Reime futsugyo kawatare ake yoake aketsuki. That's the one pronounced gyo in the haiku. Then shinonome and akebono. And then, for the dusk, we have tasokare, yugure, higure, and hakubo. Why do I know this, you ask, aside from me being an insufferable geek? It is because these are also levels of stage lighting. So, in a film script, if it reads evening, the more pedantic of the lighting crew will come to the assistant directors and demand a precise point in the evening, at which point we will have to respond with one of the aforementioned terms. Fun fact, kawatare is an interesting lighting word. It comes from kare wa dare, quite literally, who's there? The image is evocative of a beautiful balance of mist from the smoke machine and magical lighting, just so that one may barely make out the silhouette of a man on the horizon. I think that's what I'm going to call this episode. Kawatare, since I am but a silhouette on the horizon in the mist, a voice in the plum rain. You know, another fun fact just came to mind. In literature, just as the sun sets, we get omagadoki. This bimyo moment in the day between sunset and blackness is when hauntings begin to take place. Omagadoki, literally demon meeting hour. It's when the oogly booglies come out. You may say, but isn't that Ushi Mitsudoki? No, my yokai-loving friend, Ushi Mitsudoki is later, past midnight, at 2:30ish in the morning. What a creepy twist. But it's not the month of Obon right now, so I shall not continue down this goosebump path. Omagadoki is a name for another podcast. Perhaps one in the summer. Or perhaps Kevin could do one for his Haunted Japan podcast. He probably knows more about it than I do. Did you read Goosebumps as a kid? Of course you did. See what happens when you let an old lady ramble. I meant to say something useful in this podcast, but good intentions with a good bottle of sake give bad results. Later this month, next week actually, I'm going to a film festival in France. It will be my first venture out of the country since the age of Corona, and I don't particularly want to go. There have been far too many airplane mishaps, though I've never been fearful of flying before. In addition, the thought of going abroad is so tiring. I'm getting old. I'd almost rather not leave the house if I could get away with it, but work. The only thing I am looking forward to is the cheese. I very rarely miss anything from abroad. Hungarian picked salami, perhaps, and the occasional Reese's peanut butter cup that Mary O has been generous enough to send me from my motherland. Thank you. But the one thing which I lament from time to time is the lack of affordable cheese. Note, I said affordable, because yes, there is almost any type of cheese, within reason, available in Japan. I am such a regular frequentee of cheese no okoku that the owners of the Kichijoji shop know me by name. But my goodness, does it put a dent in the old zenibukuro. France, of course, is to cheese as Japan is to sushi. So, there is that. I shall simply spend my days traveling from the festival to the hotel, and from the hotel to the cheesemongers. And that will be the extent of this trip. Or so I intend. It reminds me, there is a fellow on X named Joe Bangles, self-proclaimed British cheese ambassador, who goes about poking fun at social figures and asking them in all sincerity whether or not they have a favorite cheese. He is a riot. Do find him and follow him and see which celebrities get the joke. I know almost none of them, but those who respond are obviously intellectually superior to those who don't. Right then. I am falling asleep in my sake ochoko cup. Tonight, I shall dream about cheese and plums and magic crystal balls and rain. Oyasumi.